I've been reading a visual novel recently that wouldn't be categorized as a Fandisc, but I feel like it has all the makings of one. And so today I wanted to talk about a couple of different examples about how visual novels could go about providing additional content after their initial releases, going over stuff like Fandiscs, DLC, and even so-called enhanced editions. So let's get into it. So the first example would be Fandiscs, which is something that is not necessarily a full title, but is something that is a smaller release that would come after the success of a box title visual novel and is something for the fans. A lot of the time I feel like a lot of Fandiscs are very heavily focused around H scenes, and I wouldn't really say is something where it's like a full dedicated route. I would categorize it maybe more so as like chapters, very brief scenes with all of the popular characters, and in the instance of there being a popular character in the base game not having a route, then maybe they can go ahead and actually do a full-on dedicated route for that fan favorite character. I think looking at maybe something like Muv-Luv Altered Fable, I have a couple other Fandiscs that I played, but I feel like a lot of them that I have played haven't actually had the H content included with it. So in that way, it does kind of hurt, because when you're playing a Fandisc and it doesn't have that H content included, really do feel like you're missing out, like there's something missing, because I feel like a majority of that runtime of the Fandisc was put towards the H content in general. But you know, in that instance where you get like a really long dedicated route, it can maybe make up for it. Talking about the visual novel that I'm currently reading right now, being Infinite Stratos Love and Purge, it's actually a sequel. I wouldn't say it is categorized as a Fandisc, but like I said in the intro, I feel like it has all the makings of one. So the first title to come before Love and Purge was based around the season 2 anime of Infinite Stratos. And following up, this is the sequel to that game, and like timeline wise is actually a game focused around an OVA for season 2 of Infinite Stratos. And I think as far as like the anime medium, OVAs are kind of in that same boat as a Fandisc, where it's something that's additional content that is made after the fact because of the popularity. And I feel like Love and Purge being like a full long title, I'm like 20 hours deep right now, and I probably have like another 20 or so more hours to go until I actually complete it. Every single route is based around going into like this digital world, where upon entering the digital world you have a set of doors that open in front of you, and depending on which door you go into is which heroine you're going to go and save, because they're trapped within this digital world. And every single like world behind the door is based around a certain like fairy tale or like storybook. So you've got like Cinderella, Rapunzel, but then also you have like non-princess stuff like The Wizard of Oz. And I feel like Infinite Stratos Love and Purge kind of embodies that like feeling of fan service, because it's doesn't need to have H scenes, but it has additional content that feels like it's going like in a different direction than what you might be used to, but is still like very much the same content that you would have enjoyed previously. Talking about DLC now, I want to say I've only really seen like one prominent example of it, but I feel like it's kind of a nice thing to have and would be something that I wish more studios were doing, which would be, as I've been playing a lot more untranslated visual novels, there is a lot of like console editions and enhanced editions, and in a way to kind of like get people to double dip on titles, but then also for the people that are maybe buying into it for the first time because they didn't buy the PC release. One of the things you can kind of go about doing is replacing the H scenes with additional scenes, and then also maybe because there's no H scenes in the console release, you might actually, similar to how you would do in a Fandisc, you can go ahead and do additional new routes for characters that didn't have routes in the original release. One example of DLC that kind of takes that content that would have been on a console version and puts it in a different thing would be If My Heart Had Wings Flight Diary, which I would say is probably like the only like prominent example I could think of when it comes to DLC, but that took a route for a character that was in a like enhanced edition on the PS Vita, being If My Heart Had Wings Cruise Sign, and on the English side added as just $5 DLC into the Fandisc Flight Diary. And it's something that, like I said earlier, I wish more studios could do maybe, because then you could maybe dodge some of that like potential backlash, or having that to where maybe you're like, oh, I gotta buy a whole new version just to experience this one extra thing. I think that's like a nice workaround to be able to say, hey, yeah, we're gonna just make it DLC rather than needing you to buy a whole new package. But then now going into the like quote unquote enhanced editions, I feel like a lot of time it is done through console versions, and then maybe sometimes those console versions make it back onto PC. But at the same time too, thinking about how like when you're deciding to choose like a visual novel that you're going to read next, you kind of have to look and see, oh, is it going to be censored? Do I need to put some sort of restoration patch or whatever? I think in a way too, that's something that I've kind of become more aware of. Is the visual novel that I'm going to be reading, is there like additional content available maybe on a console version that to where I would be missing out on maybe like 1 or 2 character routes? So like one of those examples is how I was reading Clear earlier this year, and I actually was doing something a little bit different in that I was jumping between both PC and console versions and kind of seeing the content that was available in both. I think it was a pretty fun and enjoyable experience overall. And I think it was really like cool to be able to see how the game kind of evolved over time, in that maybe like some various differences between the versions of like, oh, this version has like a weird kind of way about saving your game compared to how they fix it in the console version. And then also obviously with the additional content added not only for 2 new character routes, but at the same time was also adding in additional like content within the common route. And then also I guess we could talk about Mizuiro, and that was something that I had played both the PC and technically the console release down the line, to where I played an enhanced version that just recently came out that took content that was available within their later console release and put it all together into one like ultimate bundle. But then also I think when it comes to maybe how that's handled is that you might have it to where you have this additional content but isn't ever made available back for the PC players, and whether that causes some frustrations with people that originally bought it. And one example I think I haven't actually seen any frustrations with would be how Nekopara actually handles a lot of their releases. I want to say for the first like 3 volumes there was to where when they later got console releases, Nekopara being kind of notorious for being like the hentai game. How would you exactly handle making the hentai game run on, like Nintendo Switch and have it still be something that people wouldn't be feeling like they missed out on stuff? And the way they kind of tackled it is, instead of adding like brand new cat girls or whatever, they ended up having it just to where whenever there's an H scene, they would swap it to where it instead has like a more wholesome scene with additional brand new CGs that only the console players were going to be able to experience. And as far as I was aware, it was maybe because of how cheap Nekopara is, people were like pretty happy to double dip and see what was the varying content between both the original and the quote-unquote enhanced edition. But yeah, I don't think I ever saw anyone say that like Nekopara, they had felt like they had been burned on a release when it came to the console editions. I do have to wonder, because I know at least recently when it came to Nekopara, after they included both the H scenes and that like what would have been console exclusive content in the PC release. But I think the way that Nekopara kind of handles its quote-unquote console to PC releases is like a pretty nice workaround overall. And overall, those are just like a couple different examples of maybe some sort of additional content added within visual novels that I've seen. And I think it's kind of interesting being able to talk about, like when you're choosing to read a visual novel, looking ahead maybe and seeing, is there some sort of like enhanced edition that I would probably want to read instead of the original? Is there some Fandiscs that I can look forward to after I finish reading the base game? Etc, etc. So yeah, I figured it would be a sort of interesting topic to talk about. I've been Wave. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.
Yeah.